Hi, and welcome to another reading of my book, Boston Accent. Boston Accent is available on Amazon.com and it contains mature subject matter. And we're going to pick up where we left off. Here we go. My third spontaneous encounter with a woman occurred on a Saturday night with Seth. We headed over to the Nevada side of the lake to hit some clubs and hear some music. Budfest was out of town playing an overnight gig, so I had declined from joining them. Seth and I ended up at a strip mall that housed 3 clubs for music, including jazz, country rock, and disco. We started out at the rock club, but by the end of the night, we were in the disco looking for women. Seth couldn't stand the music at the disco and headed back to the rock club while I stayed. I was making eye contact with some of the women, but I wasn't really in the mood for disco either, and decided to leave as well. As I left, I decided to walk over to Seth's van to see if he was in it. The van was empty, but while I was there, I decided to take a leak while no one was around, as my teeth were floating. There was another van parked next to Seth on the passenger side, which helped conceal me while I peed. I was facing away from Seth's van, peeing towards the other van, near its front tire, when someone grabbed me by the back of my shirt, spun me around, and slammed me into the side of the van. My dick is still out, and I'm pissing everywhere, including on myself and on the person who grabbed me. "What the fuck you doing pissing on my van?" This girl, my age or maybe a little older, is screaming at me. "I'm not pissing on it. I'm pissing next to it," I yell back as I turn away from her to finish. I had a reputation for marathon pisses that lasted up to 2 minutes, and unfortunately, this was one of them. I'm trying to finish up when she grabs me again, spins me around, causing me to let go of my dick again, and I see my stream of piss go all over her shoes. "You asshole," she screams when she sees her shoes, and she grabs me by the throat and holds me up against her van. Now, I'm no wimp, but this woman was strong. All muscle, like a woman bodybuilder. Well, she didn't look huge. Tall at 6 foot, maybe 6'1". She was wearing glasses, and she was pressing her face close to mine. Well, she told me I was going to wash her van after I licked her shoes clean. I noticed movement in the back of the van, and 2 women walk over and stand on either side of her. I notice they are staring down at my waist, and when I look down, I see I'm still out of my pants. "Leave it out," she demands as I go to put it away. She still has her hands on me as I look into her eyes and see someone that's not just pissed off or pissed on. I see in her eyes that she's a nutcase. Once my original shock of the whole situation passes, I start to get pissed off. I know, a whole lot of pissing going on. I get mad, and I shove her away from me hard into Seth's van so I can put the horse back in the barn and get away from her. I'm back in my pants, and all 3 girls grab me and hold me, while the first woman continues to yell, "You're washing my van, get down on your knees, and clean my shoes." Just as I was thinking I was going to have to hurt these women, Seth walks up and says, "What the fuck is going on?" "This crazy bitch thinks I pissed on her van," I tell him as I twist and pull away from them. Seth can be an intimidating person without even opening his mouth, and I was glad it was him with me tonight. I pull Seth around the other side of the van and tell him, "We need to get the fuck out of here. Is your van locked?" He shakes his head no, and I tell him to reach over and lock the passenger door. And I'll jump in the back on the driver's side. Seth starts to smile, and I say, "I don't want to hear about it. Let's just go." Seth jumps behind the wheel, locks the passenger door, and I get in the back seat. As I look over to the crazy woman's van, I see that the two friends have gotten in her van and they're telling her to do the same thing. She's standing by the front tire, pointing at it while staring at me. Seth starts the van, pulls out of the space, and heads towards the exit. As soon as we pull away, I see her jump behind the wheel, and the van's taillights come on. Seth starts laughing and says, "I can't wait to tell someone I had to rescue you from 3 girls." I shake my head and say, "That was no girl. That was a crazy bitch on steroids with her 2 flying monkeys. What a nightmare." We decide to hit the casinos on the way home to have another drink and play some bar top slots. We end up at Caesar's Palace and find a bar that has slots with 2 stools together. We had been playing for maybe 10 minutes when someone shoves me from behind. I turn to see crazy bitch standing behind me. "Thought you could get away?" She hisses at me, but now she's smiling. Sort of. She still looks crazy, but she seems to be amused by the surprised expression on my face. Seth turns and looks at her and says, "Are we going to have a problem?" "He's going to wash my van," she replies, nodding towards me. I begin to shake my head, and then I notice her 2 friends have sat down at the bar next to Seth. I also notice that they are really cute. Seth notices too, as he turns away to talk to the girls. "Sit down, I'll buy you a drink," I say to crazy bitch, and then I ask myself, did I just say that? Crazy bitch sits down next to me and says, "You can buy me drinks all night, but you're still going to wash my van and my shoes." She kicked at me with her shoes on as the bartender was asking her what she wanted. We made introductions, and it turned out crazy bitch was AKA Tanya. I grabbed some bar napkins from the dispenser and asked the bartender to wet them for me. He gives them back wet, and I kneel down at Tanya's feet and clean her shoes. I think she is pleased at my gesture, but she continues to play the hot ass, talking smack while I shine her shoes. Seth loves every moment of this and starts pointing me out to the bartender and anyone else in earshot that I'm cleaning her shoes because I pissed on them. When I finish cleaning her shoes, she tells me to dry them, and I oblige with more napkins. The barback was getting pissed because I'm using all his napkins he just stocked, so I tipped the bar $5 and everyone was happy. I try to make nice with Tanya, but she continues to come across like a dominatrix, and I do not enjoy playing the part of her bitch. I finish my drink and tell Seth I'm going to the toilet. I say nothing to Tanya, but I hear her yell to my back, "Don't try to run off. You still have to wash my van." I ignore her and keep walking to the men's room. While at the urinal, I feel this hand on my ass, and I turn around to find Tanya standing there. "What the fuck are you doing in here?" I ask her in disbelief. "I wanted to see your dick again," she said, smiling, but looking crazy as ever. I was the only one at the urinal, but I hear someone clear their throat in the stall behind me. I finish peeing and walk to the sink to wash my hands. Tanya stands behind me, pressing her crotch against me, gyrating and moaning, "Oh yeah, baby, bend over for me." I wipe my hands dry, turn to face her, and she places one hand on my crotch and pulls my face to hers with the other and starts to kiss me. Although Tanya was not very pretty in the face, she did have a very athletic build and turned out to be a decent kisser. She was a lot more aggressive than I like, but I decided my best option was to just go along with her. While we kissed, she took my hand and placed it under her short skirt and down the front of her pantyhose. She was not wearing underwear, which I had noticed while I had been cleaning her shoes. Well, in the process of discovering that she was actually physically enjoying all of this, I felt her hand playing with the gold chain I was wearing. The chain had a matching gold Italian horn on it, and it had been a gift from Rachel. It was one of the few lasting mementos I had received from Rachel that wasn't in the form of a scar. Just then, I heard the toilet flush in the stall, and as I pulled my hand out from under Tanya's skirt, I felt my chain drop from my neck. Tanya had unhooked it, and she laughed like a lunatic, running out of the bathroom with my chain in her hand. I sprinted out the door after her and caught up to her halfway back to the bar. I grabbed both her arms and checked her hands, which were both clenched closed. She tried to pull away and fell on her ass on the casino floor. I continued to hold onto her arms as she tried to crawl away from me, laughing hysterically the whole time. The crawling motion had caused her skirt to ride up above her waist, and I could see her pantyhose had ripped, as could a lot of people who were now watching. "Drop it," I yelled at her, like you'd command a dog that had something in its mouth it shouldn't have. It didn't take long before security showed up and asked me what the hell was going on. I told them she had my chain and wouldn't return it, and they told her to get off the floor. "Do you two know each other?" one of the three security guards asked, and Tanya said, "We're lovers," and put her arm around me while licking her lips and winking at security. I decided I would have to handle this differently and told Tanya, "Let's go back to the bar, lover." One of the security guards said, "No more wrestling," to our backs as we walked away. Once we got back to the bar, I told Tanya once again that I wanted the chain back, and she giggled, "And I want my van washed. How's it feel to want?" Her friend stood up, walked over to her, and said they wanted to leave. Apparently, Seth hadn't charmed them, and they wanted a ride home. Tanya told them, "Okay, let's go," while smiling at me. She bent down and whispered in my ear, "Come with us. I'll give you your chain back and more." And she licked my earlobe and bit down hard enough for me to check for blood. I stood up and told Seth I was leaving with Tanya and her friends, and he shook his head, rolled his eyes, and said, "You're as crazy as she is." As I walked away with Seth, I heard him saying, "Don't wake up married." And I turned and flipped him off. Tanya saw me following her, and she pumped her fist in the air and yelled, "All right," which caused several patrons and employees to look our way, including the same three security guards that watched our every move as we headed towards the exit. When we got out to the van, I jumped in the back seat with one of Tanya's friends, while the other took shotgun. The van was customized and had a bed in the back, and I went right after Tanya's friend that was sprawled out and even more buzzed than I was. It turned out that the three of them were casino employee co-workers, and they all had their own apartments. Tanya announced that she was going to drop her friends off first, and me last, starting with a girl riding shotgun. In the meantime, I decided to get busy with a very cute, very drunk girl on the bed next to me as I lay down beside her with my arm resting on her waist and said, "What was your name?" "Shut up," is all she said as she pulled me towards her and kissed me hard. All I could think of is, wow, I see why these two get along. As we kissed, I began to get familiar with her as I ran my hand first over her shirt and then under. "Everything okay back there?" I heard Tanya ask, and I looked up to see her watching us in the rearview mirror. "Great, your friend is making me feel very welcome here," I managed to get out before "Shut up" pulled me back down to her. "I'll bet," I heard Tanya mumble, and I began to get the impression that maybe she was getting a little jealous. That idea in my head made me want to see how far I could really get her going. At the same time, my chain was still being held hostage, and I wanted it back. All right. I know this is a bad place to stop. You want to know what's going to happen next, but we have time constraints, and that's it. So we're going to pick this up tomorrow, God willing. I'm Mark Mattioli, and we're reading Boston Accent. Boston Accent is available on Amazon.com. It's available in paperback and Kindle, and the paper book is just about sold out, and I will not be putting any more to press. It'll only be available on Kindle going forward. So if you want it in the paperback form, if you want to be able to hold, an actual book, be able to put something on a bookshelf, you need to jump on it, because they're almost gone. And that's going to be it. Okay? So, Rock Mattioli signing off. Ciao.